Hey everyone, it's Alex Ball, back for another episode of the No-Till Market Garden Podcast. On today's episode, I sit down with Chirstian Flickinger, one of the owners of Renegade Acres and Garden Hoard heirloom seeds, located outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Along with his partner Katie, who's a primary farmer, they grow certified organic specialty heirloom varieties that they primarily sell at farmers markets and save for seeds for their online seed business. We dig deep on balancing business growth versus long-term sustainability, running an organic seed business, and making the tough call to move farm locations. So without any further ado, let's get to the interview.
Today's episode is brought to you by Rimmel Greenhouses.
Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or your family's harvest, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment that you need for a harvest that you can count on. Rimmel Greenhouses are designed for durability and offer the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Visit rimmelgreenhouses.com to get a quote today.
If I may editorialize for a second, I own a Rimmel tunnel. I love it. We built it ourselves, and I really appreciated the quality of the tunnel as well as the customer service we received in the process. So make sure to check them out. Today's episode is also brought to you by BCS America. BCS two-wheel tractors are designed and built in Italy, where small-scale farming has been a way of life for generations. Discover the beauty of BCS on your farm with PTO-driven implements for soil working, shredding cover crops, spreading compost, mowing under fences, clearing snow, and much more, all powered by a single gear-driven machine that's tailored to the size and scale of your operation. We have been using a BCS tractor on our farm since 2014, and it has saved the day and leveled the workload more times than I can count. And I find new ways to employ it every single season. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. All right, enjoy the show.
Well, Chirstian, I'm so excited to have you on the show with me today to talk about your farm, talk about what you're doing. Just do a quick little overlay of your farm name, where you're located, and kind of what your base business model is.
Yeah, sure. So Chirstian Flickinger, I co-own Renegade Acres with Katie Flickinger. She is the creator of that farm, that brand, that business. We are located just on the northeast edge of Howell, Michigan, and it's a 7-acre farmstead that we moved to a few years ago after having a farm 15 minutes away in the same city, that we kind of started our farm on and decided we needed a better piece of land after having a few seasons at that piece that it didn't really work out so well. So
you started at another lot. How long were you at that one main location until you realized we can't do this in the space anymore?
It was about three years, but Renegade Acres didn't start there. It just became official there.
Okay.
So we started in 2009 as an urban farm in Livonia, Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
And then from there, after 6 years, we decided that we wanted to outgrow farming in people's backyards and in little tiny plots. And so that's when we moved to Howell and bought a piece of land. We bought that land because it was the right place, the right time. We were there for 3 to 4 years and decided we needed a different piece of land that had better soil, better shape, better locality. And so then we moved, and now that's where we're finally at. Gotcha.
So you kind of found that space you're at wasn't working for long term.
Yeah.
And if I remember a long time, was it a wet property? Was it some wet drainage issues on the lot as well?
So you are very well versed in wet properties.
Yes, yeah.
And we weren't. And so yes, the property was great when we first found it. And then after a few seasons, we started to realize that it held so much water, and the water flowed in the wrong direction because of the direction of the land. And so every season it got wetter and wetter and wetter. And we weren't equipped to deal with that.
Yeah.
So it's not that we wanted to abandon the property. It's that we felt that we could do better somewhere else. And if we could start with an appropriate soil bed that didn't have drainage issues.
I think that I went through when I moved farms, was it just like not having to deal with supersaturation all the time?
Yeah.
Just removes so many base issues from the actual farming process.
For sure.
We all know there's so many other real things to deal with to have to worry about, like
the one thing, like nature fighting against me in a way that I can't fight back.
Yeah.
There was pieces of that land that were higher than the others, and we always did great on those pieces, but most of it was low, and it would just be so saturated. One year we lost an entire field of potatoes because they rotted and like disintegrated because they were just sitting in water for an entire year. So that was kind of like, we were like, this is it. We can't do this anymore on this piece of land. It was also shaped, it was really long. It was 1,500 feet deep by only like 200 feet wide.
Okay.
So
okay.
it was just like, in order to get to and from anywhere on the farm, you had to like travel for half a mile, and it was a pain. The new property is a perfect square.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a big upgrade then.
Yes.
Okay. Super cool. Yeah. And I find that, especially for me too, like it's so much wrapped up in that first property that you don't want to
I didn't want to let it like beat us, and neither did Katie. And so we tried our best to overcome the odds. I remember talking to you even about like drainage and trying to drain out the hoop houses, and we tried it all and it just wasn't working. So that's when we're like, you know what? This property is going to be really cool for somebody else.
Yes.
And the people who moved in there raise animals on it, and the animals are totally cool with the 6 inches down being too wet because they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Makes total sense. Yeah, and being able to say like, okay, it's time to go on to greener pastures and do this new thing. So now you have this new location. It's a perfect square. It's better draining. But it's also in the same marketplace you've been.
Yeah, so it was only 15 minutes down the street, and it's a much better house too for us. And we were looking for that, plus also outbuildings. It had storage built into it. The old property didn't have storage. So we had a canvas that we could work and kind of do what we wanted to do originally, but didn't have that starting point. So it really had all the things that we had wanted. Including a really cool farmhouse that's 152 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Was it in good shape when you got there, or have you had to?
The previous owners had completely renovated it, ripped the outside off, insulated it, put drywall up on the inside. So They had done all the hard work. I know other farmers who bought old farmhouses, and they had to do the hard work, and that's a lot to do while farming. So we kind of lucked out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, it's already hard to run a farm full time. Then on top of that, to be a renovator.
To own a home and do all the home stuff. Yeah. It's a whole nother level, which that's a whole nother thing in and of itself. We are running a farm at our house. So it's a give and a take between farming versus like cleaning up my house, doing the dishes versus going out and, preparing for frost. There's a give and a take with all that. So
no, totally. And I often find that it can be so hard to get out there and get the work done on the farm when there's hot water heaters blowing out or something. Add a whole other layer to the whole
for
level
sure. It's just
farming.
Another thing that you have to kind of add to your list of things to do. And what's more important, harvesting that vegetable so I can get it to market, or fixing that hot water heater, or doing the dishes or whatever. So there's a whole thing with a work-life balance. So
totally. So at the space currently, how many people work on the land? And then what's kind of like the way you move most of your products?
So currently we have one full-time employee, one part-time employee. And so it's 4 people who are regularly at the farm every given week during the summer. We move all of our produce and products primarily at farmers markets during the summer. And so that's Ann Arbor Farmers Market, Howell Farmers Market, Ypsilanti Farmers Market. And then we have one wholesale account. It's just for tomatoes during the summer. And then we have a huge seed business. And that is primarily a winter business because that's when everyone's buying their seeds. But it's all summer long. We're getting seed orders and trying to fulfill those while we're farming. So it's another wing of the business.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get back to growing in a second, but I want to hear about the seed business a little bit.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Are you a producer of seeds? Are you growing your own? Are you marketing? What's the whole process like?
Yeah. So Renegade Acres was actually born as Garden Hoard Seed Company. in 2009. So my wife, the owner of the farm, the creator of everything that we're talking about, started saving seeds from tomatoes in 2009 because her father saved seeds his whole life and kind of like passed that activity onto her. And it became more of a hobby. It turned into like an obsession. And then it became like this business where we wanted to sell all these seeds that we were collecting. Initially, it was trading the seeds, but then we decided we wanted to sell them to people because it's a lot easier to do a one-sided trade, money for seeds versus seed for seeds. So I created a website and Katie put all of her seeds on it that she had saved. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. We kept growing more varieties. We kept saving seeds and selling more varieties. People kept giving us seeds. And we were like a seed library that just kept growing and growing and growing until we became this big seed website that has literally thousands, maybe tens of thousands of different varieties of seeds. And they're all ours. So we aren't reselling a single seed on our website. Okay. It's everything that we've grown over the last 15 years is our seeds. And we have a huge seed library in our house that is all organized by Katie, and people buy the seeds all over the US. We ship them out. And so that's the primary business of our farm is seeds. And in order to get seeds, you have to grow fruit and vegetables. So we're growing all these fruits and vegetables, and we had to get rid of them because you're growing way more than you need. And so we started a farm. So the seed business begat the farm, and now we own Renegade Acres, which is the farm that grows all of the produce for the seeds.
Okay, I like that. Okay.
But it is 15 years in the making. So it did start in 2009 officially.
Yeah. Okay, that's super interesting. Yeah, I don't hear a lot of that way around. Yeah. I don't hear that very often. That's super cool.
And we appreciate all the other local seed businesses that we didn't know existed back then that we've met and talked to and shared stuff with. There's Nature Nurture, and then there was A2 Seed Farm, which we really liked their whole thing, and they are no longer a seed business. Green Things Farm Collective, they kind of merged with them, and then they stopped doing the seed business. We have been around for just as long, and it just keeps growing and growing. I think we have maybe over 600 varieties of just tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
On the website. And they're all from over the world that we've been saving them. And we sell them every year to thousands of people. That's super interesting. And it seems like a good pairing too, especially with that summer production, that winter time, you can really kind of get caught up and then address that customer a little better. Yeah. So, and our farm season it's a 6-month farm season. We know a lot of farmers who go all year. They do winter. Maybe they go for, 3/4 of the year, and they take off like the really cold months, because Michigan is a unique farming climate. We have a short season as it is, but we will farm from like April through October. And then the rest of the time on the edges of that season is cleanup and prep. And then in the winter, it's primarily seeds. We are taking all the seeds that we harvested throughout the summer and drying them, cleaning them, sorting them, packaging them, and selling them. So okay, and maybe kind of pull this back to how many folks work on the farm. Are a lot of those workers staying on during the winter with that seed packing business? Yeah. So at the height of our business, when we had like 4 or 5 people there, plus me and Katie, the majority of them would stay all winter, just on reduced hours and help us with the seed portion of the business. But we have scaled back, and we have one full-time employee who's primarily there all winter, helping us with the orders, the packaging, and the shipping of all that stuff. That's fantastic. Keep on that whole time as well. That's absolutely really cool. Katie does 90% of all of this, and then me and our full-time employee do the rest. So I really have to hand it to her. She works more than a full-time work week. She works 2, 3, 4 full-time work weeks in a week, and it's pretty impressive. Yeah. I find that the farmers that we put our heads down, and just like keep on pushing through till the task is done. Yeah, it's not a 9 to 5, that's for sure. No, it's not. I had someone once ask me about that. They're like, what hours do you work? Like, no, you just work. There are no hours. No, yeah. Exactly. I'm pretty sure that I've seen Katie work from 3 a.m. to 2 a.m. Before, literally a 23-hour day.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon, but it's not healthy to do that all the time. You got to find that balance. But yeah, I think that farming is really any small business that you own is going to be not just a full-time job, but a full, like all the time job. And farming, especially because you can't go in right when the sun sets. You've got to do stuff after the sun sets. You can't wait until the sun comes up to do some things. You have to get out there early and get some stuff done. And especially if you're doing farmers markets, you're out before the sun rises all the time.
Yeah. You're out loading your truck up. It's 4:00 in the morning. You're heading to market.
Yep. You're looking at the stars, waiting for it to get colder before you get to the market. Well, half the time when we're setting up at Ann Arbor, it actually does get about 5 degrees colder before the market opens.
Really?
Because you're there before the final sun, right before sunrise. And so it just gets colder and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm cold. Because you got there and it was warm.
Yeah.
And then the sun hits and you start to warm up. But it's always, I love to stare at the stars when on Saturday mornings, when it's 4 a.m., we're going out and loading the trailer. I always look up and just look at the stars. And that's kind of something I do once a week. And
well, yeah, after you've done all that work, all the harvesting, all that breaking down, you got to calm down a little bit before the storm hits over the markets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your booth is something that I'm blown away with constantly, not only on just the beauty of it, but the variety of products you bring. So maybe just to inform folks, what do you specialize with that market? What do you think sets you apart from all the other people? Just folks don't know, the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, it's a competitive market.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a pretty big market.
So that market was kind of like a goal for us to get into. We were originally just doing the Howell Farmers Market and Brighton Farmers Market. And we were like, we really want to get into Ann Arbor, but there's always all these like stories about it. Like it's this mysterious market. Like there's rules you have to apply and it's hard to get into. And look at all the people who are there. They're really cool. And it does have a very lengthy application process. And there used to be a waiting list where we applied, we got in, and then there's like this transitionary period where you have to you're in a different spot every week. So nobody really gets to know you. And so that was a challenge, but we finally kind of got well known and we have our permanent spot now. And I will say that it is one of the most diverse markets that we've been to, as far as the quality, quantity, and types of products and all the different farms. Because we are primarily a seed business and the majority of our seeds are heirloom varieties, that's what we bring to the market. So whereas everybody will bring a purple, large, fat eggplant, we will bring the little tiny white eggplants and the really long, light purple eggplants and striped eggplants and orange and yellow the green tie eggplants. We will bring all those and mix them together. And people will come and be like, what are those? I'll be like, they're eggplants. And they're like, no, they're not. They're like, they blows their mind when they see eggplants that are green and white and yellow and light purple. Or we bring basil that smells like blueberries and vanilla. We bring basil that smells like black licorice or lemon. And, as farmers, we might know these things, but the customers don't. They've never seen or tasted or smelled lemon basil before. Some people have never seen a tomato that's not red. And this is a big thing in the conventional farming world, where they are trying to educate people just on conventional farm products, like chocolate milk isn't from a brown cow. And that, different types of corn exist and things like that. But it's also for the small farmers, when we grow a way more diverse set of crops, we have a way harder time educating people. If they can't grasp that chocolate milk isn't from a brown cow, how are they going to grasp that an eggplant can be any color in the rainbow? A carrot can be any color in the rainbow. A tomato can be any shape, any color. When they're kind of trained with grocery store mechanics that a tomato is red and hard. A carrot is long and orange. They have these products that were meant for shelf stability, but the world has produced literally an infinite variety of colors and shapes and flavors for us. And that's kind of what we grow. So our booth reflects that. It is just a wide variety of crazy things. And we love to grow wild cucumbers from around the world and put them on our table. And people come and literally all day, it's the same thing over and over again. What's that? What is that? What's that? And I tell them it's a cucumber. And they look at me like I'm lying to them. Like I've just told them like a complete lie. And I just love to shock people. So that's kind of like the thing that we try to do is we try to bring weird things that are going to shock people. And, we thought this one vegetable was going to shock a lot of people, but in Ann Arbor, it just got us a bunch of sales because there's a bunch of people in Ann Arbor who love this vegetable. It's a bitter melon. And it looks like a really like pointy cucumber that's got spikes all over it and bumps. And it smells kind of nutty and bitter.
Okay.
And when you break it open, it's bright red and yellow and it looks like an alien pod. But every single person from an Asian country who sees our booth sees that and immediately is like, that brings back memories of childhood because they grew up eating it. Or they'll tell me that brings back horrible memories because they grew up eating it and it's bitter. And so they all give me mixed reviews, but they all smile when they see it. And I love that. I love when somebody from a country that like grew up eating something that we are growing here can identify it and tell me stories about it. And then when somebody who grew up in, rural Michigan sees it and they're like, I don't know what that is. I've never seen that before. So that's what our booth looks like. It's weird and funky vegetables, strange colors that aren't typically associated with the vegetable that you see. And then we try to just make it aesthetic by placing everything in neat rows and being very clean.
Yeah. And that cleanliness of it makes it just so Instagrammable. Like every time I see that, I see it, I'm like, oh, you just want a photo of it.
And at least in the beginning of the day. So as the day winds on and people start buying things, it gets hard to refill. But yes, there's always that photo op moment at like the beginning of the market where everything is neatly put out and color coordinated. And I do love that moment.
Yeah. So how many markets are you doing now? You said you're doing 2 or 3 markets right now?
Yeah. So 2 in person and then 1 online. We do the Howell and Ann Arbor markets in person. And then Ypsilanti has a really, really cool online market that was born out of the pandemic. And it has continued since then. And we love that because it's one less thing we have to physically do, but we can still get really cool produce to people, and especially Ypsilanti because it's a community where they might not have access to those things. And I think that the online makes it easier to access for some, and I'm sure it's harder to access for some too. But it gives an opportunity to access those things where we don't have to go to that market, but we can still serve that community. So that's fantastic. And the food hub in Ypsilanti is unique. I wish every community had a building where produce could be taken to and stored and distributed. I wish those things existed everywhere. Eastern Market has one as well that we participated in a few years ago. And I just wish that every community had one of those and the staff and the funds to like do that. But unfortunately they don't. So I really appreciate Ypsilanti's online market. And then Ann Arbor and Howell are great markets. Howell's great because it's 10 minutes from our house. We can literally wake up late and still make it there on time. And that's kind of like the easy market for us just because it's shorter, it's later, and it's so close. Ann Arbor is the harder market. It's early, it's far away. And then Ypsilanti is like in the middle. It's easy to do, but it is far away.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of balance with that.
Yeah.
And I think, you talked in the past, but a few years ago, you were doing like quite a few more markets per week, 4 or 5 year thing you were telling me.
Yeah. So I think we were doing like 5 markets and it was great and it was horrible. So, I think that every farm has their growth period and they kind of like, they start out slow and they figure out what works. They figure out their niche. They figure out how to do things and they build. And sometimes you have such momentum that you might go too far. And I think we did that. So we were doing so great. We finally got to a point where we had a walk-in cooler, we had wash stations, we had like storage, we had a good workflow. And we had gotten up to like doing 5 markets a week. One of them was Eastern Market, which opens just got awfully early and then closes very late. So your day is like 2 a.m. to 8 p.m. When all is said and done with like prep and packing and driving there, setting up and all that stuff. And that was financially our best year ever, I would say. But mentally, I think it was a huge strain on us. So it was great. And then the next year we kind of did a little bit less. We still did Eastern Market. And then the next year we dropped Eastern Market because while it was the best performing market, it was so demanding and so draining to get there. And literally there's not a break in the entire market where you can even go to the bathroom for a small farmer. I'm sure the big farms who have like 5-6 people standing at their booth can, trade off, but it was just like me and Katie. And the traffic there is insane. And they put us right in the main stall, not like off in the weird one where you can't get to. It was like right in the main stall. And people were just a constant train of people from like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it was a lot. And at times, it's like, do I even have enough money in my cash box to fulfill, to do this? Do I have enough produce here to even last the whole day? It was a lot, but I loved it in the fact that year we made a lot of money. We made a lot of contacts. We had a lot of opportunities because of Eastern Market. But at the end of the day, we were so tired. I can't even explain to you how tired we were. Being tired at the end of the day is one thing, but this was physically just worn out, dead. And so that's where we kind of stepped back and said, maybe we should do a few less markets. Maybe we should focus on markets that are closer to our home and offer us a little bit more. And so we kind of readjusted and we pulled out of another market that just wasn't performing at all. There wasn't any traffic.
Yeah. And you said, not only is that physically exhausting, but just the emotional, the mental exhaustion of just being nice to people for hours on end.
I could write a book on the customer service aspect of farming. You don't think about it a lot, but if you are doing direct sales to people and not just to wholesale and companies, you have to put on this face and this show to your customers when you're maybe really tired. You've only slept 2 hours. Yesterday, you were out in the field all day. You might be sunburned. Your back hurts. You might have had something that you're thinking about because your crops are failing. And you've got to be really nice to a customer who asks a question that you might have heard 1,000 times. And so customer service is huge when you're selling directly to customers, and doesn't matter what you got going on. You've got to be nice and happy and smile. And you can't snap at them. You can't say something bad. You can't react to a lot of their rude comments. You have to be happy and nice, even if it's just for a $3, pint of cucumbers.
Yeah. Because you never know that customer could now be a lifetime customer.
For sure. And I appreciate every single customer we have. It's just, at the end of a hard day or end of a hard week, sometimes you don't want to say the same thing for the 100th time. And I know a lot of our customers get what we do, but a lot of them don't. And I think that's with any industry. I look at so many different jobs and I try to imagine what they're going through every single day. Like at the grocery store, for example, I try to imagine what that person who works at the grocery store is going through. And I don't want to make their day any shittier than it already is. So I'm going to try to be as nice as I can because I know they have a lot of customers who aren't nice. And they don't deserve that because they're just there. It's a job, they're just there. It's a job, but we can't our farm is a little more than a job. It's we live there. It's our house. It's, a livelihood. We can't just go to another farm. As the owners of a farm, you can't just go to another farm and say, I don't like this farm. I'm going to go to another farm. The farm employees can, but I can't. So I've got to make the best of it, even if there's a lot of shitty stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You still got to double down and make it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you went from doing these 5 markets a week, now you're down to 3 markets a week. What was that? What was the big push to do that? What made you decide, hey, maybe we can't do this anymore?
Yeah. I mean, so it wasn't that we can't do it because we totally can. We can do 7 markets a week if we wanted to. There's nothing stopping us. It's just that Katie wanted a better work-life balance. She wanted to have more freedom in her life to do just non-farm things. And so she totally made that her goal is to have the freedom to enjoy the fruits of her labor, literally and figuratively. She owns a farm. That's her her primary business. That's her job, her chosen profession. And she wants to be able to take that and use what she makes from it to have fun, to do what you want to do. Anybody who has a job is doing it to make money. Primarily, there's other reasons to have a job too, altruistic reasons and community reasons and stuff. But you make money at a job so you can pay your mortgage, so you can pay your bills, so you can eat food, so you can do all this stuff. And so she wanted to take that and, live her life. So that's another reason why we pulled back a little bit. And mental health. We needed to not constantly be go, go, go. We needed to just be go and then maybe rest a little bit. But there really isn't any rest. But it's if you're doing something a little bit less, you're resting just by not being at 100% constantly.
Yes.
So she is focusing a lot on the seed business whenever we are not, at a market, or focusing on farm stuff whenever we're not at a market. So it gives us more time to do stuff at the farm.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's one thing, we're friends on Facebook, whatever. I see all the time. You're always out at a show, at a concert. I'm it also inspires me.
Yeah.
Because seeing you guys do your thing and have some fun reminds me that I can go do my thing and have some fun.
So, and when we were doing that 1.5, 2 years where we were 100% farm all the time, not do anything personal or fun. I remember seeing other small farmers, our size, our style, and they were like, oh yeah, we don't do anything outside of the farm. Even in the evenings, we barely have time to eat dinner. So it's we eat takeout, I always remember that thing where farmers don't eat healthy because they don't have time to eat healthy. And I find that very interesting because we grow healthy food. We grow lettuce and we don't eat the lettuce. Why? And it's because by the time we're done with our day, the last thing we want to do is chop up that lettuce and make a salad because it takes too long. So we go out and get something unhealthy because it's quick and easy. And when I think about that a lot, I think that's sad. We have a job that is very unique. We're growing food and we can't even eat that food all the time. Maybe sometimes, but all the time because we're just too busy. So we need to be less busy. So yes, Katie decided that she wants to have more fun. So we travel during the winter 2 to 3 times. And that's we absolutely are traveling. It doesn't matter where. It could be in Michigan. It could be out of the state. It could be out of the country. And then during the summer, she no longer is letting the farm dictate what she can and can't do as far as a concert or an event. It might make it difficult, but she's not going to say no to a concert she really wants to go to or a really cool event that's happening after market on a Sunday. She's yes, we're going. Even if we're tired, we're going to go. Even if this means we're going to get 2 hours of sleep, we're going to go. And we've been doing that the last couple of years. And it's really changed a lot of how we do things and how happy we are that we can kind of go out, have a good evening together, go see a concert that gets out at midnight, and still go to the farmer's market at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Even though that we're sacrificing some sleep, we can still do it. So that's been an important part of forming a work-life balance, is trying to have more life and just a little bit less work without sacrificing the work.
Today's episode of the No-Till Market Garden podcast is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud sponsor of the No-Till Market Garden podcast. Since 1973, Johnny's has supported farmers and gardeners with superior seeds, tools, and information to help ensure their growing success and help feed their communities and families. The research farm is at the heart of Johnny's, where they trial thousands of varieties and tools every year. Their breeding program uniquely focuses on introducing varieties that meet the needs or solve the challenges mixed market, small farmers, and avid gardeners face. Visit johnnyseeds.com for innovative new varieties and time-tested favorites to grow this season. You can also browse their online growers library, link in the description, for a wealth of free educational resources. The employee owners at Johnny's look forward to growing with you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Farmhand. I don't know about you, but I got into farming to grow food, not spend my time creating pack lists, writing newsletters, responding to emails, or maintaining web stores. If I could spend less time on my phone and computer and more time farming, that would be a win. Enter Farmhand. Farmhand is the only all-in-one virtual assistant built by and for CSA farmers. It takes care of the admin, managing orders, customer communications, and automating tedious tasks so you can get back to doing what you love. On average, Farmhand saves CSA farmers 6 hours a week. That's 6 hours you could spend with your family, out in the field, or simply taking a breather. So, what would you do with an extra 6 hours? Now's the time to get your systems ready for next season. Learn how Farmhand can help at farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show.
I feel like we've probably been farming very similar amount of time or so, similar ages, kind of like this next cohort of farmers in the area kind of coming up. And I think we all know the old timers who have never left the farm.
Yeah.
Who, like, I had a farmer I was talking to, and he unfortunately, from lifting bulb crates of potatoes his entire life, can't walk very well now. His back is blown out. And he said to me, yeah, I might retire next year. I'm not sure. And I was sitting there. I was like, man, you need to start. You can retire. You need to sit down a little bit. You enjoy yourself a little bit.
But I think that's, as farmers, it's kind of in our DNA. It's in what we do that we keep thinking about next year. Even when we may not want to do next year, we're thinking about next year and we're making plans for next year. And we're always thinking, well, we're going to, next year, we'll try again next year. We'll do better next year. And when it comes to it, you start doing next year because it's what you do.
It's what you do.
Just start doing it by default,
No, I totally know what you mean by that. And I almost feel like farming as a business, if it didn't have like a month and a half off for the holidays, then no one ever farm again, right? Yeah. Just enough time that we kind of forget like how much turmoil we've gone through the last year.
For sure. And that's why we take the 6 months. So we like farm for real, like hardcore for 6 months. And then the other 6 months is out of the field in the house doing seeds. That gives us that regenerative break where we can recoup, and it gives us that time to travel or do totally just our own personal thing. And then as soon as April comes around, we start way before April, but April's when we start going outside. Because we start all of our seeds and stuff earlier than that. But when April comes around, it's like we look and we're like, oh, well, we're going to go back outside again. When do I, get to till the fields? When do I have to clean out the hoop house? Things like that. And it comes so fast though, in Michigan. As soon as the frost breaks and the days start warming up, boom, it's May. Boom, it's June. It's August. And then before you know it, it's October 15th and the frost is hitting. I feel like it's such a exponential rise up and then a complete vertical line down as soon as October 15th hits every year.
No, totally. But then I also feel like from then to January 1st flies by so quick. Before you realize, geez, it's time to start our nets.
For sure. For sure. It's not enough time, but it's short of just completely giving up and quitting on farming, you're not going to get any more time. So,
no.
Now, if we lived in a different climate, I don't know how this would all be playing out. If we lived in like California or even Kentucky or, Georgia or somewhere where it's warmer for a long time, I still think we would try to have that balance where we shut things down and try to focus on something else for a little bit, even though you could potentially do 2 seasons in a year. It's
at your farm. Are you using hoop houses? Are you using Ascension?
So as soon as we formed Renegade Acres in 2015, we immediately applied for the hoop house grant through the NRCS because we were like, okay, we want to do this. We feel like we want to extend our season both front and back, but we don't want to pay for the hoop house because we don't necessarily have that much capital right now. So we applied for the grant and I didn't realize how easy it was. It's you just go in, ask for a number, fill out a form, and they randomly said, yeah, you were accepted. And so we got a hoop house and we're like, wow, that's amazing. And when it got built, it's a cost share, but you only pay a very small amount. When it got built, we're like, this is the biggest thing we own, it's as big as our house, if not bigger. And we're like, well, we need more because it's so great. It's like a drug. And so we got a second one and we got approved through NRCS again. And we're like, we need more. So we got a third one and now we have 3. And that was the coolest thing ever. And so then with 3, we could do a proper rotation because we do a 3-year rotation. So we were like literally rotating the crops between the three every 3 years. And it was the greatest thing ever. And then we were like, we need more. We need more. But we tried to apply for another one and they had like dropped the program from our county and stuff like that. And so like we didn't get it. And we were like, okay, that's fine. When we moved our property 15 minutes down the road, we did not want to leave those hoop houses.
Yeah.
So just like every other small farmer that we know, we got to be, part of the let's move a hoop house crowd. So we know plenty of people who buy used hoop houses and disassemble and reassemble them. And we were like, we can do that. We can tackle that. And so we did it. We took down all 3 hoop houses and we forgot to label all of the parts for what belonged to what hoop house. So we got to the new place. We unloaded them literally in the middle of winter because that's when we moved. And we let them sit there until spring. And we said, okay, let's build these things. Wait a minute. They're all mixed up. So we had 3 hoop houses worth of parts and they were all mixed up. But luckily, they were all very similar builds. So there was only a few parts that were like different and we just kind of like made it work. And we got them all erected again. We put new plastic on all of them and we had 3 essentially brand new hoop houses at the new property. So that was cool.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I feel like, when you see like on a marketplace, like hoop house for sale, $1,200, you just take down. It seems so good, but the amount of work wrapped up to it. The amount of work. As someone who's torn down multiple greenhouses, you're there like day 3 up on ladders.
It is so much work on so many bolts and so many screws. And like, it feels like never ending. And you also like don't know if you're going to get hurt doing it because these things are just like so big and there's so many parts and they're so heavy and they're sharp and they're just like, it's a massive undertaking. I'll say that much. And I feel like people that I know, Jacob's Fresh Farm, he has torn down so many hoop houses from other properties and brought them to his. And and 2 Tracks has done the same thing. Just watching them do that, I admire that. The 3 that I've done is enough.
Yeah.
It's enough.
Yeah. You've had your time in the sun. You're done.
But back to your original question, it does allow us to extend our season. So October 15th has hit today. And we have a killing frost tomorrow, like the real killing frost will come. And so what happens is all of our field stuff is gone, but all of our hoop house stuff is still rocking and rolling. We have tomatoes growing and ripening right now. All of our pepper plants are rocking and rolling in a hoop house. We've got some weird cucumbers and eggplants in there. They may have slowed down because it's not a heated greenhouse, but they're still there. And Katie has this cool tradition where we close up the hoop houses like really tightly, Velcro and tape everything shut when the first freeze comes. And we don't go in those hoop houses after the first freeze until like the first of each month after that. And we go in and we're not doing farmers markets anymore and stuff like that. We go in and we just try to find a plant that's still alive and a vegetable that's still growing. We always have, since we've had hoop houses, have had a fresh farm-grown harvested tomato on December 1st.
I love that.
So right after Thanksgiving, we will go in and find a tomato that's not like totally frozen or frosted or dead or gross, not rotting, and we will pull it from a plant that is just hanging on, and we will bring it in the house and either let it ripen or it's already ripe and we will eat it. And that is like the coolest thing that she's found that she can do with a hoop house is at least get 1 tomato on December 1st every single year since we put those up.
I like that. That's a fun tradition.
Yeah.
That's really good. And it seems like too, the flexibility of like not doing like a winter green season allows you to push all of those crops much later into the season.
So while all of our other friends are ripping out their hoop houses maybe like in September, because like their tomatoes are starting to go or their cucumbers have succumbed to different diseases, we are letting things ride until the end of the season. Our tomatoes go hard until they freeze. So frost won't kill them in there, and the first freeze will sometimes kill them, but if it's like a light freeze, like 30 degrees maybe, the hoop house will be fine. But if it gets below 30, like 28, 25, that's when we know that there's a death in there. And it's always a sad morning when we go in and we like look, everything's black and melting. But it allows us to extend our season well past our typical farmer's market season. So we usually are the last ones in the market with tomatoes.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I found, especially for Michigan, October 15th is pretty normal for our first frost date. But then we also could have like, it's really 70 degrees, I think, like in 4 days. We have some nice weather coming up still past that.
Yeah. Right now we're getting like a dip in weather.
Yeah.
Might be hurricane related, but it's going to be really nice right after, like next week. It's going to be in the 60s, 70s. It's going to be beautiful outside. So the tomatoes in the hoop house are going to love that, and we're going to get some nice ripening. And we're hoping that we'll have some tomatoes into November by letting the weather kind of keep warm. And we always go out there right before the freeze date, and we will just pull everything, pull the fruits and vegetables, and then like unripe tomatoes, unripe peppers. We'll let the tomatoes ripen up and we'll sell them off on the Yipsy market. And then we will take the peppers and dehydrate them and do stuff with them. So,
okay, cool. That's fantastic. So I'll find a way to use every single thing and even like, okay,
all
cool.
the way till the end of the season. We don't let nature take any of that from us. We will take it before nature gets it. That's for sure. We were just out the other night when we had that mini frost. We were out with headlamps on until midnight, pulling all of our shishito peppers off the plants and those all died the next morning. So we got like 2 crates full of shishito peppers, and that's great because nobody else has shishitos right now, but we do. We have fresh shishitos right now that were field grown.
That's fantastic. That's super cool. Yeah, and I bet just people extend that at the end of the season like that and kind of capture those last few months of sales is probably really beneficial, especially.
Oh yeah.
And kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about your seed company, when do you process all of that fruit to then? Yeah.
So the best way that we've found is not to wait. We've tried that. We've waited and it doesn't work too well. But so we try to harvest seeds throughout the year now. So whenever we get the tomatoes, when they first start like going crazy in the field and in the hoop house, we will pull select tomatoes from every single plant and mark them for seed. And then throughout the week, either Katie or her employee or me will process those tomatoes and get the seeds out. And then flowers, we have to wait until the end of the season because their natural cycle, they flower, they die, the seed pod forms. Peppers, same thing. We have to wait till the end of the season because we need ripe peppers, and peppers don't ripen in Michigan until the very last second. The peppers that we're saving because they're all like hot peppers.
Yeah.
But we will save seeds from sweet peppers early in the season. But it's basically when the plant gives us the seeds is now when we do it. We found that that's the best way to keep up with it so that we can just kind of spread it all out. So tomatoes are usually first, followed by flowers, peppers, more flowers, and then whatever else is left in the field at the end of the season. So we always grow like one variety of corn each year to save seed from the corn. We grow like one variety of other like tall grasses and stuff to save seeds from those. We do a lot of isolation too with our seeds. So some plants self-pollinate like tomatoes and some don't. They need bees to move pollen around. And so those we will put bags on flowers. Early in the season, we'll select like a branch and we'll put bags on all the flowers. So at the end of the season, we know that branch is full of our pure seed and we'll harvest just those vegetables and process just those. So
it sounds like, man, balancing that with markets and all these varieties.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of layers into just the normal.
Katie is a mastermind in not only balancing all of the seed harvesting and fruit harvesting and market harvesting and seed organizing and selling and keeping everything straight. She's got spreadsheets and everything's labeled, lots of labeling. And yeah, she's amazing at it. But yeah, we have a methodical system for keeping all of our seeds pure and separated and not mixing anything. We've had accidents in the past where we've like spilled an entire tray of something or mixed up a bunch of stuff. And because we're honest, we're not just going to just slap a label on it. We will trash all of that. And it's devastating. Kind of like losing a whole bin of produce because you did something stupid. It's happened. It's going to happen again. Mainly like with tomatoes, you have to let them ferment in like this goo for 3 days. And if you're not careful, you will spill that whole tray of fermenting seeds. And there could be like 40 varieties and they're all mixed. They're all lost because we really pride ourselves in having true genetics. So we can't like sell them as like something that they aren't. So, and if somebody tells us that their seeds don't come true, we will note that, take it off of our website, and try again next year.
Yeah, totally. And maybe this is a quick question on that. So you are certified organic as well for your production. Is that apply for the seed production as well?
It does. So we weren't always certified organic, but we've always practiced organic methods. So we decided to become certified organic for the marketability of that label, and just like allowing our customers to easily trust us and not just, our word, for it, that we're organic. The organic process is very not straightforward, and it is a lot of stress, but our customers instantly recognize that label. So for right now, we are certified organic, and it wasn't that we always were. We became certified on our old property, when we formed our farm. And we had to wait like an extra year because there was some input regulations on our land. The new property was instantly certifiable, and our seeds are all part of that. So not only is our produce, but our seeds are all certified organic. And then any of the products that we produce with our vegetables is also certified. So we produce like dried pepper flakes and a few other things. That's all certified as well. And once a year, we have an inspector come out and do the whole thing with us. And we have to provide a lot of documentation. And that's probably the most stressful day of the whole year for me, to have to sit down with somebody who is really just reviewing information. But, it's like, if we fail, what happens? The organic process is very interesting.
Yeah. It's funny. We're actually going down the rabbit hole right now of applying for certification, and something for the longest time I didn't really care about. But the further I get my business and the more I can't be in front of someone to sell a product, like explain something like, oh, wow, this label has value, just to quickly explain, what we do.
Like, you can tell your story to as many people as you want, and have them try to understand why you do what you do, why you don't do what you don't do. But that's a lot of work to constantly tell your story over and over and over again. When they see that green and white circle, you don't have to tell them your story necessarily. A lot of them will just say, oh, I want to buy from you because you've got that green and white circle, or you're naturally certified, or you're, real organic project, or whatever. All those labels are really good tools for us farmers from a marketing perspective to shortcut to that sale and to shortcut to that trust. Whether or not you like that and the ability to use it as a shortcut is a personal preference. And that's why I think it's great that there's other labels. There's natural, there's real organic, there's all kinds of different ones. And you can choose which one fits you if you want to, or you can continue doing the legwork to put your story out there and to tell people what you do and don't do and why. That's all up to you. I have this mentality that all farming is important. Doesn't matter if you're doing Korean natural farming or you farm corn and soybeans and you use monoculture and spray glyphosate on everything. That's two wildly different ends of the spectrum. And we fall very, not in the middle, but very, very far left of the, of the middle on the more like organic, natural side. But I have friends who are everywhere on that spectrum. And I think it's important that they all have tools to get their product out there, whether it's, easy access to a grain elevator for that monoculture guy, or easy access to a food hub and easy access to marketing tools for us, us small, diverse farmers. I think it's all important. Whether I agree with your practices or their practices matters only in conversation and like politics between, us friends, but I don't think it matters a lot to the whole idea of farming, because we all have a place. I cannot feed like tens of thousands of people, but that one corn farmer who grows tens of thousands of acres of corn might be able to. And I want those tens of thousands of people to be fed by his corn, because that's the best way to get that much corn. But it's not the best way to get my tomatoes, because my tomatoes you can't grow on that scale in that way. And so that's kind of like why I'm differentiated. And, behind closed doors, I might give him shit for how he does his farming, but I'm not going to do it in front of a customer. I never try to badmouth another farming practice or another farmer in front of a customer because that's not my place. And I don't like to get politics involved in the sale of produce, though I might get involved in politics of farming in policymaking and with other farmers. That's the place for that, not in front of the customers.
No, I totally agree. And anytime we can get someone to like support any type of local grower, doesn't matter what kind of scale is or what they're doing. We can kind of like move the bar, one more direction closer to something more local.
And we all can utilize a lot of the same tools. Like the big farm organizations have put a lot of laws in place that we can actually make use of as small farmers, which is really cool. But they've also put laws in place that don't allow small farmers to get a leg up. So it's important that we come to the table and say, we are also here. We're only 6 acres and we do matter. And what we do is just as important as the guy with the tractor that's bigger than my house and the field that is as big as a city.
No, totally. Yeah. And I think it's so hard for a lot of growers, especially in the micro scale. Again, you say micro scale, people get self-conscious. It's like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But it's like, if you're feeding people in a community, I think that's really the first baseline.
I used to be self-conscious about telling people how big the farm was. Like, oh, it's real small. But then I realized that I work the same, Katie and me work the same number of hours as the guy with the 10,000 acres farm because there's only 24 hours in a day. Yes. So he's out there from sunrise to sunset or sunrise to midnight, and Katie's out there from sunrise to midnight, the same exact time. So we all work the same hours. We all have the same purpose. We just go about it a little bit differently.
It's funny. I had a friend of mine and her father ran like a multi-thousand acre farm in North Dakota. They're doing like different type of like bird seeds, whatever. But whenever I talked to him, he was always so interested in what I was doing. And it blew me away that someone would be interested about what I was doing. But to him, the idea of like year-round growing salad mix under plastic and then to people was like, wow, what an interesting idea.
Right? Yeah.
And to me, the idea of like, he was telling me, to get to my field, I have to drive 4 hours just through this field.
Right, exactly.
And that blew my mind.
I mean, the way that they do irrigation blows my mind. Like, I wish I could do that on my scale. The way that they do, just the way that they're able to harvest things so mechanized, I wish I could do. There's a lot of things that they bring to the table that I wish I could do. And, always striving to make efficiencies, whereas they have a lot of efficiencies built in because it's at scale. We're not at scale. We're so tiny. We have to like make things fit our tiny scale. And then we also have to, we're selling a lot less. We might have 5 crates of something, whereas they might have 5 truckloads of that same thing. But I have to still sell it and make an income for me, and he has to sell it and make an income for him. So how do we do that? Well, they sell it wholesale to a distributor. We sell it directly to a customer. The price points are way different. That's kind of how that works. So you can make a living doing the small scale, and you can make a living doing the big scale. It might even be the same living. When you get down to brass tacks, it might be the same numbers.
No, it's funny because like Eastern Market, the same time you're pulling up and loading your 5 crates of tomatoes, there are semis from farms all around the state of Michigan unloading pallets and pallets and pallets of tomatoes.
I don't know if you've ever been to the midnight wholesale market.
I have,
at Eastern Market. It blows my mind seeing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, first of all, Eastern Market's in downtown Detroit. It's one of the biggest markets in our state on the east, on the south.
It's one of the biggest in the country. And oldest too. It's an amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's also a madhouse in the sense of just like how many people are there. It's insane rush. But yeah, so like the funny thing is at that market, there are people who are going to buy from the big semi truck, and people who don't come and buy a box of tomatoes from you.
And a unique thing I like to tell people about us in Eastern Market is we were one of the first participants in their pilot program to accept small farmers. So a few years ago, they approached us. They sent out a person to different markets all around Southeast Michigan to recruit small farmers, small, organic, and natural and different farms than they're used to, because they have a lot of wholesale resellers there, people who aren't farmers but are buying stuff off of trucks from Walmart and Meijer that have gone bad, essentially, or are going to go bad. And then there are a lot of large farmers there, and there were no small farmers at the time. So they went out to recruit a bunch of farmers. We were one of them. They came in for the pilot program. They gave us a free stall for an entire year, and we got to do whatever we wanted with that stall. And it was right smack dab in the middle of Eastern Market where all the other big players were. It wasn't in the corner or in the dark reaches or in the, the old buildings. And that was the year that we did too much and we burnt ourselves out. But after that year, they started accepting small farmers in a modified application process. And now I know a bunch of small farms that we used to hang out with at Ann Arbor and Howell go there. Like Lake Divide and a few other ones are there now full time because it's a great market. And if they have the ability and resources to go there, you should. And that's great for them. And I'm so glad that we were part of that initiation that Eastern Market was doing to get small farmers interested in Eastern Market, to kind of show that it's not just for the big boys. It's not just for the resellers. It can also be for the small guy. Even if I'm only bringing 5 crates of tomatoes or 2 crates of lettuce, I can still compete with the big guys at Eastern Market and level the playing field. And there was a demand for it from the customers. They didn't just want all of these, Driscoll's strawberries. They wanted, the Jacob's Fresh Farm or, Lake Divide strawberries. And they were willing to pay a little extra for those local real strawberries.
Totally. And especially if you compare, again, what a lot of those resellers are selling, green bell peppers, size number 1, slicing cucumbers, and you're showing up with the most wackadoodle,
for sure,
blow your mind type of varieties.
That was a fun 2 years because we got to get exposure to a ton of people. And that is the most diverse customer market I've ever been to. There's people from every culture there, very much like Ann Arbor, but even more so. And so they got to see all kinds of cool stuff, and we had so many questions. I loved it for that aspect, but it definitely was very mentally draining.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no way it can't be. So now that you've gone from the 5 markets to 3, finding a little bit better of work-life balance. So what do you think are some of your goals going forward in the next few years?
That's really 100% up to Katie, what she wants to do. I don't see us stopping this at all, but I do see it constantly morphing and changing. We have to go with the ebb and flow of what makes sense. So it made sense when we started out to ramp up and do as many markets as possible. And it makes sense for us to pull back right now to the 2 that we're doing in person and the 1 online. And maybe it makes sense in the future to do less. Maybe it makes sense in the future to find another online market, which we've just heard about a few others that are actually in the area. So we're looking at applying for those. We would love to do more markets and distribution where we aren't wasting 8 hours standing in front of people. And whether that's getting our stuff into Argus Farm Stop or getting our stuff into other online markets or working with other local small farmers who might need some extra tomatoes in the season that they can sell not as their own, but as, a value add product from another farm that's like theirs. That's what we're kind of looking at, is trying to pull back from physically being present at markets and push forward at distributing our stuff with other means. And then the seed business is just going to keep expanding. As we grow more unique things, we add to our library, and we just expand that. We're planning on doing a whole website overhaul this winter to kind of get that bigger and better. We just started shipping internationally this year.
Oh, congratulations.
So before it was just US only, and that was more there's just extra shipping, there's extra forms, but we found a way to automate all that so we don't have to touch anything. Sending something to Germany is the same as sending it to Nebraska for us now. Except the person in Germany has to pay a really big shipping fee. But it's all calculated. We're not gouging anybody on shipping. So we now ship internationally, and I make a map every year on December 31st of every order that went out from our seed website. And it's a little red dot and every single zip code that we sent seeds to. And I finally got to do a world map, and it was really cool to see just like, this is our first full year doing it. So it'll really be cool to see this year's map on December 31st. Last year's map had like a couple in Europe, one in Australia, things like that, and like Africa. But we're going to this year make the map, and it's going to just be a globe, and we're going to see all these dots all over, because we've been shipping a lot of stuff to a lot of different cool countries. So
that's so awesome. And it's fantastic you have these outlets built into your business that aren't just like serving the people 10-mile radius from you.
Yeah. And while I think that that's great, and that's why we love the Howell Market, I think it's really cool to be able to expand and send food and stuff that allows people to grow food all over the world. And in Michigan, like I said earlier, I really wish that there was more food hubs and food distribution that catered towards that small, niche farmer, because we don't necessarily have the resources to spread our food out all over the place. I don't have a trucking network. I don't have, a wholesale distributor that goes nationally. I don't have the produce to do that. So that's why if we can have a food hub that will pick up or allow drop off, and then they can spread that stuff out. It's like I have a 10-mile radius around the farm and a 10-mile radius around the food hubs. And so now I'm in 4, 5, 6 different cities in Michigan, and I don't have to do a ton of legwork. And that's cool. I really want that to be like the future of what we're doing, is less in-person markets, more distributing to hubs and other farmers who are helping us spread that food out while still making the same amount of money, so that we can put it back into the farm and live our lives.
Yeah, totally. Especially those type of outlets, the online, the food hubs. If you can simplify down that distribution, and then it sounds like that just feeds right back into your goal of having that life work balance. Yeah. Of like not having to having to stand in front of 5 markets.
Absolutely. I mean, I could easily sell my tomatoes to a wholesaler. Katie has a wholesale deal right now, and we could ramp that up to 100% of all of our tomatoes if we wanted to, but that drastically reduces the revenue, which drastically reduces her income. So while it's a possibility, it's not the end goal. Yeah. And that is all going to one person. This wholesaler makes a product out of all of it. So that's going to that one person, and then our name is removed from it in the final iteration. I would love for everyone to be like, oh, this is a Renegade Acre tomato, and they're in Detroit, or they're in Flint, or they're somewhere else in Michigan, and they're eating a Renegade Acres tomato. I don't have dreams of a tomato of mine making it to California, but I would love to serve, especially like underprivileged communities that don't have access to that kind of stuff, which is why I love Ypsilanti's food hub and online market, because we can bring the tomatoes there when it's not a market that we can like go to on the dates that they have their market. So that's just phenomenal to me. And I love every time we walk into that food hub and drop our stuff off. They've got like 2 big coolers and, tables and a full-time employee who like sorts all the stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I think I've seen a lot of nonprofits during COVID and post-COVID who've done type of food hub models. And it's like there is a demand for that. And I think a lot of people want to get involved in farming or food distribute or local food. And they think, okay, I'll start a farm. Well, there's some other ways to get involved in local food than besides just starting your own farm.
Don't necessarily start a farm, start a food hub.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot less back breaking work. But I'm sure there's a lot of other stress in that kind of a job. Yeah. But I would love to see more food hubs or food distribution or online resources for small farms to get their produce and their stuff to a wider market.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chirstian, I really appreciate you talking to me about your farm. You and Katie are doing amazing things. I hope to one day get out to the space and, hopefully in the summer I can come down and check it out sometime.
Yeah, definitely when it's more like, beautiful and in production, or maybe come the day after we prep our beds, the day after everything is mowed and perfectly clean. Come on Instagram day, and you'll be really impressed. And then you can just view the photos that we filter out for Instagram after that. But yeah, I definitely would love to have you out next time everything's looking perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll drop a link to your seed business, Garden Hoard, in the show notes. Folks can just check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
A huge thanks again to Chirstian sitting down with me to talk about his and Katie's work at Renegade Acres. These two are a personal inspiration to me for their work-life balance, for prioritizing taking care of their own individual needs while also killing it at the farm game. Surviving the long haul as first-generation farmers is extremely challenging. You have to find healthy ways to cope and take care of yourself if you want to make it. If you want to learn more about their farm, check out their online seed catalog. You can do so at gardenhoard.com or on their Instagram. If you want to connect with me directly, you can do so on my Instagram at Old City Acres. Have a great day, y'all. Try not to work too hard, and thanks for listening.
All right, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Always make sure to check the links in the show notes for how to follow our guests and hosts. The No-Till Market Garden podcast is a free show that is supported by folks like you who contribute every month over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. That support helps ensure all the shows we do, from the Seed Farmer podcast to the Winter Growers podcast, the Collaborative Farming podcast, the Composter podcast, Growers Daily, and of course the No-Till Market Garden podcast, can continue to go and grow. You can also find books and hats as well as an active forum over at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge thank you to editor Michael Sellis and producer Jackson Roulette for all their work on this show and the rest of the team over at no-tillgrowers.com. Otherwise, thank you all for listening, and make sure you are subscribed wherever you're hearing this so you don't miss the next episode of the No-Till Market Garden podcast. See you then.